This is the Missouri Southern State University Coaches Show, sponsored by Freeman Orthopedics and Sports Medicine. With your hosts, MSSU head football coach Atiba Bradley, KSN Sports Director Bailey Harbit, and Reina Garcia.
Welcome to the Missouri Southern Coaches Show. I'm Reina Garcia.
And I'm Bailey Harbit.
And we are joined by Missouri Southern head football coach Atiba Bradley. Coach, thank you again for joining us. Well, you guys were back on the road yesterday, coming off of a tough loss to Northeastern State. What was the approach this week?
Well, I mean, it was just get back to work. Our guys are excited about work. Our guys are excited about getting better. Our guys are excited about the next opportunity to prove that we belong in this league and that we're a good team in this league.
Yeah, were there any adjustments that you guys made in practice this week, kind of preparing for UCO?
No, I think that's probably when you go into a game after a couple losses, you really start to really look at what you do and how you do it. And we just felt like we just had to keep plugging with what we're doing and just give it some time and get guys comfortable and mature, and we would be just fine.
Yeah, what were some of the things you knew about Central Oklahoma in terms of like what they did well, what you were going to have to stop?
Yeah, I mean, that's probably one of the fastest teams laterally that we'll see. I mean, they run sideline to sideline really well. They're stretched. They do a great job. Defensively, they're aggressive in their coverages. We knew we'd see a lot of man. We knew we'd see a lot of, quarter-type concepts that would really challenge our routes.
And now, is there any part of your guys' game going into this where you felt that you might actually have an edge over UCO?
Yeah, I mean, a lot of times, the playing field is so level, and we are a good team, and just like we'll face good teams. And so not necessarily an edge, but we knew if we played our game, we could win that game.
Well, let's take a listen to what you guys had to say earlier in the week preparing for this game.
It's the focus that we've had towards practice. With young guys, getting them integrated into our culture, it takes a little bit of time. Just them coming into college and realizing the different level of focus that you need for a week of practice to focus on an opponent.
We just got to trust our coaching staff. I think our coaching staff's really good, and I think we just got to believe in it and just trust the process with it. We're young, but we just need to work on putting 4 quarters together, honestly.
Going into this season, we knew it would be tough. We knew we had our work cut out. We knew we had to bring our A game, per se, week in and week out. And so our guys have never wavered from that. Our guys are not shying away from competition. Our guys are not shying away from the challenge. And honestly, as we build this program, that's what it's going to take.
And when it comes to putting 4 quarters together, I know we heard that a lot in terms of last week's performance. Is that more of a mental hurdle that you guys were trying to work past?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, a lot of times when you're playing 4 quarters, something happens in the first that may not be great. Mm-hmm. And so a lot of times young players or immature players kind of hang on the previous mistakes. And so you just have to understand that it's a long game, and you can erase that play from your memory and move on to the next one.
Yeah, and what do you think of your team's progress over the last few weeks?
It's been good. I think we're getting better each week. The hard part when you're evaluating how much you're getting better or where you are is, other teams are getting better, and you're seeing better teams each week. And so we definitely are getting better, and you can see it, and obviously you saw it last night with the W.
Yeah, and you guys went up against another mobile quarterback. Did it help playing Kearney week 1, kind of facing a similar style?
Sure. I think last night's quarterback really wanted to throw the ball. Mm-hmm. He really didn't want to just take off and do his work with his legs. And so versus Kearney, mm-hmm. I mean, he was going to take off. He had no interest in throwing the ball. He was trying to he was getting his yards. But no, they're very similar in that they're athletic and that they're mobile. I think they're both number 2. Mm-hmm. But Nebraska Kearney really wanted to just run with the football.
Yeah. Offensively, what did you guys want to focus on in this game?
We just wanted to be the most physical team out there. I mean, that's as we go into week 1 to week 11, we want teams to know that they played us. We want teams to wear on them. We want to beat them up. We want to get them in a phone booth and fight them, and then take our shots. And that's what we did, and it worked for us.
Yeah, and coming off of 2 kind of tough losses, you probably hear the term short-term memory probably thrown around a lot. Do you feel like your team did a good job of kind of doing that coming into this game against UCO?
Sure. I think in a lot of different leagues where the competition is not so strong, you may hang on to a loss, you may hang on to a victory, but in this league where everyone's so good, I mean, you really need to be focused on what's coming up. You celebrate the win, and we give them about 18 to 24 hours to truly celebrate it, but man, right away you're getting ready for the next one.
Absolutely. Well, coming up on the other side of the break, we are going to break down last night's thriller in Edmond. You're not going to want to miss it, so stay with us.
I just wanted to score, honestly. I knew it was 4th down, 3 yards to go. We called either a slant or fade, and I wanted to win, so we went for the fade. And obviously the results came out with what we wanted.
Welcome back to the Missouri Southern Coaches Show with head coach Atiba Bradley. Well, this week you guys took a road trip to Edmond to take on a solid Central Oklahoma team. Yeah. This one came down to the wire, so let's check out those highlights.
Brown wants to throw. Near sideline. It's intercepted by the Lions at the 25-yard line, and this is going to be returned for a touchdown by Dylan Bolden. Handoff to Pauly off the left side, inside the 10, inside the 5. He stays in bounds for a Central Oklahoma touchdown. Lions rushing 4. Brown wants to throw. Steps into the pocket. Sacked back at the 44-yard line. Richard Jordan Jr. Hurl, pass over the middle, caught. Stoshak then fumbles the football. UCO is going to recover at the 26-yard line. Field goal is up, and it will split the uprights. It is 4th and 3 Lions. Hurl going to throw a slant pattern, caught for a first down and more. To the 30, to the 20, to the 10, to the 5. Touchdown, Missouri Southern. Brian Boyd Jr.
I'll tell you what they did. What a outstanding call by Matt Rawl right there.
Stephon Brown in the shotgun. Now rolls to the right. Fires a pass downfield. Intercepted by Dylan Bolden. Returning it to the 37-yard line. That's going to do it. The Lions to defeat UCO for the first time since 2013.
Well, you guys had some success very early on. It seemed like that first series you were kind of just marching up the field with the run game, but then UCO kind of seemed to catch on and kind of shut it down. But you guys didn't stray away from it. You kept going. Why is it important not to abandon the run game?
Well, I think it sets the tone for the game. It sets the tone for what we want to do as a football team in terms of being physical and really being aggressive. The other thing it does is it helps you control the game. A lot of times when you're throwing the ball, and whether it's 3 and outs or the clock stops, and so we have to be able to minimize the amount of reps we play and the amount of possessions the opponent has.
Yeah, it seems like your defense has really made some strides from that first game, where there wasn't really much to speak of, to the Northeastern game where you had 2 interceptions, to this game where you had that big pick 6 and that final interception to ice the game. How has your defense progressed from week 1 to now?
Well, I think what you're seeing is just, again, it's a byproduct of the hard work. Defense is such that you can cover a lot of mistakes up by just playing hard. And a lot of times there's a lot of mistakes on the film that you don't necessarily see because guys are running to the football or guys are doing this and doing that. Whereas offense, you really got to be clicking. You really need 11 guys all executing at the same time to have a chance to have a successful play.
Yeah, and they seem to try and catch you guys at moments, kind of on your toes, kind of picking up the tempo, going kind of no huddle, but it didn't really seem to work. It seemed like you guys were always still there, still sharp. What did you do to kind of, offset that?
Yeah, so it's a lot of times what offenses will do is when they see you sub, they won't sub, and then they'll try to get a play in while you're transitioning guys. And so in those instances, we just have to wait till they sub for us to sub. So it's a constant chess game, and so they're moving pawns and we're moving kings, so felt good about it.
Absolutely. Could you talk a little bit about the overcoming those missed opportunities, 2 missed field goals, that fumble that we saw in those highlights? What was, how important is it for you guys, like you said, to have a short-term memory and to overcome those hurdles?
No, I think, a lot of times those can be devastating blows. Those can be like, oh, here we go again, but credit to our guys. Our guys just kept fighting. Our guys kept, whatever it takes mentality to get the win. And so, we would have liked to have those 6 points on the board. We'd like to keep that drive alive without fumbling. But it wasn't in the cards. And so our guys just kept fighting and doing what they could to get the win.
Yeah, before we take a look at the stats, I want to ask you, of course, about that touchdown play. I know I asked you about it last night, but what was going through your mind just from start to finish of that play?
Well, it was, hey, we're not out of it. We still got time. We still got an opportunity. I have a lot of faith in our offensive personnel. I have a lot of faith in our offensive coaches. And so, honestly, if you leave us time on the clock, we'll find a way to get it done. We rehearse those situations every week. We rehearse down by 4. We rehearse down by 6. And so I felt really confident going into that.
Yeah, well, let's go ahead and take a look at those stats now. Now, looking at it, they kind of dominated in terms of time of possession. What do you take from that? What does that usually indicate for you?
Yeah, Coach Patasso has a very distinct style in that he's a bend but don't break defense. We don't care how many yards you get. We don't care whether you make it all the way down to the 2-yard line. Our whole point, our whole goal is to keep them out of the end zone. We want to make sure they don't score. You can have a bunch of stats, but as long as you don't score, you'll never win the game. And so we really focus on that. And a lot of times we'll give up 3 yards here, 4 yards there, knowing that when the time comes, we'll get the stop.
Yeah, and this was your guys' first win over UCO since 2013. I mean, how did it feel to break that streak and get that first MIAA win in the process?
No, Again, I've said it. It felt good as a coach. It felt good to get that first, for me, my first win in the MIAA. But I really was just so happy for the players, because as players, you work hard, you do what your coaches ask, you run the plays they ask you. I mean, you do everything just to have a chance. And so when you don't win, it's like, man, it's hard. But our guys got to see their hard work pay off, and we got the W.
Absolutely. Well, we are going to take a quick break, but when we come back, we will be joined by some very special guests, so stay with us. Well, welcome back to the Missouri Southern Coaches Show, and as promised, we are joined by some very special guests. Thank you guys for joining us. We have Dylan Bolden over here, Brian Boyd Jr. playing big roles in yesterday's game. But Dylan, we're going to start out with you because you kind of started things off with a pick 6. Just tell me a little bit about how you felt about your performance.
I actually dated back to practice. I thought about it. I was like, man, I'm glad my scouting team gave me a real good look. Ty Rutledge, Sweeney, all of them, they give really good looks today. I mean, not today. This week at practice, and it helped.
Yeah,
I've seen that before.
Yeah, and take me through kind of that first, that pick 6. I mean, it kind of seems like you saw it and instantly just jumped on it. What was going through your mind on that?
Well, it was in cover 2, and I had faith in my linebackers on the inside, so I didn't have to cheat inside. So I was able to sit on top of that route, and the quarterback just threw it right in the pocket. Yeah,
well, if we can, I don't know if they showed it yet, but let's roll some of your game highlights, because not only were you just blowing it up with the interceptions, you also had a big hit in there. Here's the pick 6 on this one, just a thing of beauty. That really shifted the momentum for you guys. Do you feel like that got the team fired up?
Just a little bit. It got us going. But I feel like we had it in us all along. We just had to put it together, and I think that helped.
Oh, yeah. That looked like that wouldn't hurt. But just overall, I mean, we heard Coach said a little bit ago, defensively you guys bent, but you did not break. What was the mentality throughout the whole game, in order to pull out with a win?
They're going to make good plays. They're a very athletic offense, but we are a very athletic defense too. As long as we did our job and did our parts, we felt like we would be in the game regardless.
All right, well, we got to shift gears offensively to pretty much the biggest play of the game with you, Brian. I mean, I asked you a little bit about it yesterday, but just what was going through your mind in terms of the offense? It just seemed like you guys were trying things. It just wasn't exactly working, but how did you guys stay positive throughout?
Just staying on track, trying to hone in on getting drives in to score a touchdown, and pretty much just keep hitting that on the head pretty much.
Yeah, and how did it feel? I mean, it wasn't a walk-off per se, but that was the thing that gave you guys the win.
Yeah.
Have you ever won a game like that before? Have you ever been the hero of a game like that?
In a basketball game, not a football game, not a football game.
Oh, well, how did it feel? I mean,
unbelievable, honestly. I couldn't believe it, but in the same time, shout out to our defense because they played and kept us in the game as well. And actually, before this, me and Dylan talked this week about him having picks and having 2 picks in a game, and it happened. So that's really crazy.
You manifested it. You made it happen. You talk about it enough. That's awesome. I mean, just from a player perspective, winning a game like this and, you know, breaking that streak against UCO, I mean, how did that feel?
It felt great. I haven't been here since 2013, so we didn't really feel like they were just all over, just better than us. So we just came out and fought, really.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, and that was a classic case of you play until the final minute. I mean, it's not over until it's over. You guys were in that game till the very end. And how good does it feel to know that you guys saw the one all the way through and came out with a win?
It actually feels good. It feels really great because we really work hard at practice, and it felt really good to see our hard work pay off. All of the runs, all of the getting yelled at behind little things, the details stood out yesterday in that game.
Do you guys feel like you played the full 4 quarters like they've been talking to you guys these last couple weeks?
Indeed. Full 4.
I mean, not to put a damper on anything, but I mean, were there some things that you feel like you want to clean up though going into next week?
Definitely. Just cleaning up our pass game, cleaning up the offense. The defense is holding up well. So it's pretty much that. Yeah. Staying on track.
Yeah, for sure. And just real quickly before we, head to break, next week's game.
Next week.
Homecoming,
Yeah.
Are you guys excited? What's that going to be like playing in front of the home fans again?
We're excited. We're excited to show them what we're really about. Didn't really get to showcase that the first game, but now I feel like as we're catching the groove, everybody will see.
Absolutely. Well, make sure to stay tuned because we got plenty more. We're going to talk a little bit about the upcoming matchup against Fort Hays State, so make sure to stay with us. Welcome back to the Missouri Southern Coaches Show. Well, let's take a look at some scores from around the MIAA. Nebraska Kearney gets past Washburn 28-24, and Northwest rolling past Central Missouri 47-4.
Missouri Western.
7. I don't know how you can score 4 points.
Sorry, Reina. Missouri Western edging Emporia State 38-37. Pitt State taking down Northeastern State 48-13. We had Fort Hays State winning big over Lincoln 72-0. So, Coach, let's talk about Fort Hays State because they're your opponents for next week. When you see that score there, 72-0, I mean, what does that tell you about this team?
Yeah, it tells me that they got on a roll.
To say the least, mildly.
I mean, 72 points. No, I mean, listen, they're a talented team. They played Northwest Missouri early this year and held them to, I believe, 14 points or 15 points. I mean, they're talented. Their passing game is really good. I believe he had 3,400 yards last year. I mean, the guy can throw the ball, and so. Well, I mean, we'll have our hands full with another quality MIAA opponent.
Yeah, and they're one of those teams, it seems like, who is just better than what their record shows. I believe they're 1-2 right now. But obviously, like you mentioned, they hung tough with Northwest and barely lost, I think, to Missouri Western. So, I mean, do you think that they're kind of one of those teams that's better than what their record shows?
Yeah, I think it's just another example of how deep and how good this league is, and you have to be ready. I mean, I think that they could, on any night, if they played Northwest again, the outcome might be different. And so they're playing for playoff lives, and they're trying to keep their season rolling, and so they'll be motivated.
But so will you guys, because obviously we kind of alluded to it in that previous segment. It's gonna be homecoming for you guys.
Yep.
I mean, how much does that add to the atmosphere on game day?
It's a huge. I mean, it's a huge boost. Anytime you have a big crowd and there's energy and there's a little bit of a buzz, it gets it going just a little bit more. But again, I've said it since day one. Our guys are not scared. Our guys are not. We fear no man. And Fort Hays is just another opponent. Yes, they're good, but shoot, they're all good. My wife was reminding me of the associate property that, but Central Missouri beat Mo West. Mo West beat Fort Hays. So by that math, we've already won the game. So no, but it really is this league, and you have to bring your best game or you're going to lose. And in the case of 0-72, if they get rolling, it can get ugly.
Yeah, well, do you have any fond memories of playing in homecoming games at Southern?
It was some of my. I always enjoyed, obviously, the game and the win, but I also enjoyed seeing the guys that came back for the first time, seeing the guys that former teammates that you maybe hadn't seen for a little bit, and just kind of being like, hey, you graduated, now I'm the big dog, And so just having that opportunity to see the guys again.
Yeah. And do you think coming off a win like this, that home crowd is going to be a little more, we were talking about it, during the break that, your crowd on the road gets pretty fired up, but after a win like this, do you think that home crowd is going to be a little more energized?
Fingers crossed, we had a really, really good crowd for game one, but it was 93 degrees.
Yeah.
So, people were literally cooking in the stands, and so I'm hoping with the fall weather, we'll get a great turnout, the weather will be awesome, and the fans can just really come out and have a great time.
Absolutely. Well, finally, we'd like to end today with our top 3 list.
Yeah.
We like to do these, have a little fun. I know last time we talked about fast food, but this week we're talking sports movies. Our top 3. I'll go first. I got to go with Love and Basketball. Classic. I love that movie. I've seen it probably too many times. And then another basketball movie. Bailey kind of fought me on this one, Juwanna Mann. I don't know if you've seen that, Coach Bradley, but it's a funny one.
It's a weird choice, that's all I'm saying.
But it's funny. It's a classic. And then lastly, I'm going with Bring It On, because cheer is a sport, coming from a former cheerleader, but it's also a classic.
Yeah.
So those are my choices. Bailey, what say you?
All right. I seem to have an affinity for basketball movies. I had to go with Hoosiers, Coach Carter, a young Channing Tatum. Beautiful.
That's right. I forgot he was in that.
He is in that movie. It doesn't really do a whole lot.
That's
kind
true.
Of a liability, if we're being honest.
That's right.
But, and then The Sandlot. Honestly, one of my favorite movies of all time. So, but enough about that. Coach Bradley, I want to hear what yours are.
Well, I like boxing, so I'm going to go Rocky 4.
Okay.
And that's not easy. The Rocky series is, you could easily go with any of the other ones. Mm-hmm. Love comedy, so I'm going to go Major League with Charlie Sheen. And then, now this one goes quite with, Juwanna Mann, but Space Jam.
Oh, okay.
The first one.
Yeah.
There's only one. There's only one GOAT. There's only one Space Jam. So.
That's a hot take.
Yes, yeah.
But to be fair,
I had to get that in before we.
Did you see the second one?
I won't see the second one because there's only one.
That's right. Right. Respect the original one.
Absolutely.
Well, I would say those are some pretty good lists. Good job, guys. I'll have to challenge you for next time. Well, that's going to do it for us here on the Missouri Southern Coaches Show. Thank you for joining us. Coach, thank you for joining us. We'll see you back here next week.
This has been the Missouri Southern State University Coaches Show, sponsored by Freeman Orthopedics and Sports Medicine.